Hi, everybody. Welcome to the fifth episode of Phenomenal Woman Wednesdays. I am your host, Dr. Saran Nataki. Thank you for joining. Welcome to Power 365 Phenomenal Woman Wednesdays. This podcast will address issues ranging from what is a phenomenal woman? Are you enough? Community service, paying it forward, the manifestation of dreams with words and action, the power in being a woman, the men who support phenomenal women, fashion, and much more. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Phenomenal Woman Wednesdays. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't had an opportunity, please go back and listen to episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4. Last week, we featured Dr. Shanae Manley, and she shared with us some very important information on how she has achieved success in her career, reached her career goals, and some very important nuggets of information that can be applied to anyone's life who's on a journey. And I think she's just so awesome. So please check out that episode. This week, I will be focusing on what has been termed the natural hair movement. So I want to dissect that just a little bit with you all, because what I have noticed is that in the African American community, that we have returned to donning our natural hair, and I think it's so amazing and so awesome from a variety of different perspectives, and it has a lot of meaning behind it. But I also want to talk about how it's viewed from outside the African American community and what's actually happening within the African American community for women today. And it's not just African American women that this is happening for, but every woman. But it is just expressing itself in the African American community because we have this additional component with our hair. And so the first thing I would like to do is define the word authentic, because I think that is really at the root of what's happening right now. So I'd like to first visit what Webster's identifies or defines authentic to me. And so it says authentic means of undisputed origin, genuine, made or done in the traditional or original way, or in a way that faithfully resembles an original. And so when we talk about natural hair as a movement, yes, we are definitely, I think it can be perceived as a movement in terms of there being a huge emphasis or presentation of natural curls, in all different textures, shapes, and sizes, and it's just really beautiful. So the thing that really made me start thinking about this more deeply is that I was out, maybe a week or so ago, and I noticed that every single place that I stopped, someone commented on my hair. And I don't happen to live in a community that is predominantly African American. And so, there are many, many people who are admiring, my natural curls and, really making comments like, oh my gosh, your hair is amazing. You look awesome. You have the most amazing hair, etc. One of the comments that was made to me was a woman. She also had natural hair. Her hair was curly, but looser curl texture. She's not African American. And she commented, she said, how does your hair get like that? How do they do that? And when you wash it, what happens? She had these, she was inquisitive. It wasn't disrespectful. She was just really inquiring, and she really appreciated my hair texture. So I just explained to her, that it was my natural hair texture, and she was just like really, really amazed. And what came to mind is that it really was more of a compliment that she was just so surprised that it was my natural hair. And the reason that I say this is because I think that what she thought was, if your natural hair is like this and it's so awesome and amazing, why have women been straightening their hair? Why have they been hiding these beautiful curls all of this time? And I think that's exactly it. So one thing that I would like to point out is that as it really starts when you're a young girl, especially, and I'll be speaking from the African American woman's perspective because that's who I am. And this, I think, applies to every woman from various other perspectives, but specifically, I'm focusing on hair. And so, as a young girl, we receive messages about what is beautiful. We have various images of beauty through TV, through our own mothers, through our aunts, through our cousins, through our friends, through our social interactions and what we see in magazines, etc. And in my home, when I was growing up, my family subscribed to Ebony magazine, Essence magazine, and Jet magazine. And so those were three magazines that were very prominent in our home and really focused on the African American community and really featured beautiful African American women and just people in general, and spoke to issues that were occurring in our community as well. And so throughout, those images that were represented in that magazine, there were so many different types of images. Some women had straight hair, and especially in the 70s, there was, the afro was very prominent. So it was also natural hair, but it was an afro. And so I think that at the onset of what today's perceived movement took place, that there was kind of a tendency to associate wearing natural hair with making some type of political statement, which made it very uncomfortable. I think if you really think about why many of us felt uncomfortable wearing natural hair in our corporate office jobs, etc., is because really we didn't want to be perceived as, coming in and, we're just, turning the whole situation upside down. We're offended by the establishment and we're anti, and we didn't, that's not really what we were about. We just wanted to wear our natural hair. And so there was really a desire to kind of disassociate from being the rebel as opposed to just being ourselves. And so that, there's that level of discomfort, and then just the perception that it would be perceived as being not conforming to office or corporate standards of being very well put together and polished. And so we would straighten our hair or wear styles that were more tame and not so noticeably different, I should say. And so I think it goes back to during the 60s and the 70s, when there really was a rebellion and a revolution that was taking place, where there was a big movement within the African American community to speak out against different social injustices that were taking place during that period of time with respect to U.S. politics and where we stood in America and taking back our civil rights, etc. And so the afro became symbolic for that movement and that rebellion against the atrocities that were taking place with respect to our civil rights during those periods of times. And so now, though, while we still, there's still a consciousness of various things that are taking place in our current day history, the decision to wear our natural curls really isn't associated with that. It really is more of an awakening. It's an awakening of, hey, this is actually who I am, and who I am is okay. I really don't need to have permission to be myself. And I think that, just speaking for myself, that's really what it has become for me. Just really the acknowledgement of, I'm okay just the way that I am. I'll share with you when I did work in an environment that was more corporate. I did conform in terms of, the styles of that I would wear my hair in when I would report to work. And I would straighten my hair. I would wear, if I did wear my natural hair, it would most often be pulled into a neat bun. Something that was not going to be, in my mind, distracting or indicate that I was not a team player. And I think that was more my perception. And when I left that environment, the first thing I did was I stopped straightening my hair. I changed my wardrobe. I stopped wearing suits. I just wanted out of the whole, I felt restricted. I felt restricted with the environment that I was working in because I was really allowing it to redefine how I chose to present myself. I was not being authentic. I was not uh, being genuine with who I really am. I was altering what was traditional. I was altering what was original. And at the core of it, it's not really how I choose to dress. I don't choose to dress that way on my off time, and I don't choose to wear my hair straight. Hardly ever. I do, believe that as women, we want to change our look and we want to do different things, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. But when you're doing it because of what someone else or what you perceive someone else defines as being the correct way, there's a problem with that because the way God made us is how we were intended to be. There is absolutely nothing wrong with natural curls. It's almost like if you straighten your hair because you're going to work and that's what you need to do to be a team player, and that's what you need to do to be perceived as not being a rebel and part of the revolution. Then you're saying, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry about that curl, let me straighten that out for you. Don't, oh my gosh, I don't want you to think that I'm going to be raising up and trying to take over the establishment because of these curls. And then when I think about that, it's just so silly. It's just such a silly perspective. Now, I don't think, I know that many might be saying, well, no, I mean, I do need to look polished. I do need to be put together. I can't roll up and work with some 10-foot afro and act like it's not really causing a problem up in there. I mean, that would look odd. Now, look, I'm not saying, roll out of bed and show up with an untamed afro, 10 feet tall with no, I don't believe in that. I believe in being stylish and, putting yourself together. You should groom yourself. You should absolutely care about how you're putting yourself together. And depending upon your work environment, you want to actually, take into consideration that you are presenting yourself in a professional manner. What I am saying, though, is that professionalism and curls, I don't think they don't have anything to do with the other. You can still be professional and be your authentic self and have your curly hair. I mean, there's a variety of different hairstyles that can be done with that. And so, even with respect to the onset of why we started straightening our hair, the psychology behind that. I'd like to talk about the psychology behind straightening our hair. We began straightening our hair so that we would be able to fit in a way that was acceptable by our white counterparts. That's quite honestly the truth. There was a desire to disassociate from our natural hair because it was perceived as being incorrect and not beautiful. It did not conform with that standard of beauty. And so we began to disassociate from that. And once we began to do it, we just went full throttle, to the to the extreme with it. And the other part is just always wanting something that you don't have, but specifically just really trying to fit in and conform. And so what happens when, as a woman, you begin to feel that who you are is unacceptable, and it has to be altered before you can step out into the world and present yourself. There's a psychological shift that takes place. So it, whether you acknowledge it or not, there's a shift that takes place within where there's a feeling of inadequacy with your raw self. Just think about that for a second. If you're always having to alter who you are before you can present yourself to the world, then that means that who you are is not good enough. It's inadequate. And so that inadequacy, feeling adequate once you put on the costume and once you put on and make that transformation so that you can present yourself to your counterparts and even to your peers, is it takes its toll over time. And so what I began to see with myself, once I decided that I would begin to wear my natural curls, I developed a confidence that really coincided with my own professional journey, with my journey toward really tapping into who I really am and actualizing all my own talents. It really did coincide directly with that journey. They became one and the same. It was almost like the curlier and tighter my hair became, the more aware I became of myself. So it was almost like there was magic in the curls. So the curls really did. The more comfortable I became with myself, the more comfortable I became with myself, if that makes sense. So the more comfortable I became with who I was internally, the more comfortable I became with who I was externally. And I no longer felt like if I had to go to a special, attend a special event, that I needed to straighten my hair, or if I needed to, attend a meeting or whatever it might be, give a speech, I had to straighten my hair. I no longer felt that way. I would simply style my hair in a different style that I felt was a little different than, what I would always do, just to have a different look, but it didn't have to be straight. Now, I do have accessories that I wear from time to time, but honestly, I don't really wear them as often as I may have done in the past, where I have straight wigs, because I just, sometimes you just want to switch it up. You just want to have something that looks different. So I do have that. And not because I'm just I'm the curl police, and I feel like if you ever, straighten your hair, that makes you, really evil. Absolutely not. It's just personally, I love my curls so much that I do not want to even risk, having them not spring back in the way that they normally do. So I just want to protect them in a way that doesn't sacrifice, their authenticity. So anyhow, I'd like to hear what you think about it. So please comment. Let me know what you think about this natural hair movement, as it has been called. Because from my perspective, I see it more as an awakening. We have we've come to realize that, we are actually authentically beautiful. We don't have to straighten our hair. We don't have to alter our appearance just to be beautiful. And when we wear our natural curls, oh my goodness, it's almost like this beauty that was always there just comes out in a way that is magnificently expressive. And the reason being is because it's just how God intended us to be. And God makes no mistakes. So he created us just as he intended for us to be. The other thing that comes to mind as I think about my own natural hair journey, or my return to myself, is that when I first started wearing my hair curly, or naturally curly, I really subscribed to having, very tamed curls. It had to be very perfect. And I would, wash my hair and make create these fresh curly styles, every other day, just so that the curls would lay perfect and be a bit flatter and, glossy and just perfectly defined, neat curls. And so now I'm not worried about that at all. Like actually, the bigger that my hair gets, the better. I love it large. I love it big, and I get the most compliments with my hair, and it's full, curly, imperfect state. And, I've taken great pride in making certain I have the right shape to my hair to really provide the presentation that I'm after. And I think, with any grooming routine, it requires, having routine maintenance and making certain that you are really presenting it, doing it justice, presenting it in its best light in whatever way that is. So whether it be tight curls, whether it be loose curls, whether you have straight hair, whatever your texture is, just really embracing that. Not to say again that you can't accessorize and do different things, but you should also be comfortable with who you are authentically, because I really think that it really has an impact on how you feel about your abilities when you step out of the door and perform in the world. Even when we're raising our daughters, I think it's important that they see that we're comfortable with who we are, because it certainly translates in how, their desires to present themselves. I have daughters, and each of them, um, each has an appreciation for natural curly hair, and they go through various stages at different ages, and they want to do different things and try out different styles. But ultimately, they are all, each and every one of them is comfortable with presenting themselves in their natural state, and I think that that is so beautiful. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud that I'm able to provide that example for them, and that confidence that comes along with not just being an African American woman with curly hair, but just being a woman. The power in really appreciating and recognizing your own beauty, just independent of what the world might project onto you in terms of what the world might define as beautiful. That is such a moving target. I mean, imagine, we go from decade to decade, and it changes. One decade it was, having very, very skinny physique, and, having straight hair. And, now we've moved toward having a full figure with, big curly hair. And, what might it be next in the next decade? And so, if we're constantly chasing this moving target for beauty, then we never really associate or are empowered by our own beauty the way that we are. That goes for personal style too. So when you're developing your personal style, I know I follow various bloggers and vloggers and whatnot as style inspiration, and people who I feel that their style might emulate or come close to mine, or maybe it doesn't. I just admire how they put themselves together. And what I acknowledge for myself is that while certain clothing items or certain looks may look good on some people, it doesn't always translate that it's going to work out perfectly for me. Sometimes I'm just going to wear things that really aren't necessarily quote unquote on trend, but they look amazing just because I wore them, because it's how I'm expressing myself. It goes with how, it is expressive of what is going on inside. So it's your own personal artistic expression of yourself. And so if you're comfortable with that, then you have got such a strong foundation for how you paint the how you paint your own life and how you matriculate through it. Also, with respect to natural hair being on trend, it's interesting because, cornrows have become kind of a mainstream go-to style for everyone, not just African American women or men, but across the board, anyone who can cornrow is subject to wearing cornrows. And so, you look at the history of cornrows and where that came from, and all of the intricate designs that we wear, and the various patterns, and they're so beautiful. And so, historically, in ancient African civilizations, we use braids to identify ourselves in terms of what tribe we belong to, our age, our marital status, our social status, our social engagements. And so here we are, fast forward, and braids have become very mainstream. And so and I think that's pretty awesome, because while it's trending in America, it's really not been a trend in the African American community. It's what we've always done to express ourselves. When we came here to this country, we chose to continue to braid our hair, to hold on to our culture from back home. And we also chose to braid our hair based upon our occupations at the time, working in environments where we needed to really keep our hair out of the way and keep it neat, so that we would be able to perform our job duties. And that is my PC way of saying, when we were brought to this country and we were forced into slavery and we were working in the fields, that was a way for us to keep our hair maintained and protected while we were out doing jobs that really would not be ideal for a free flowing afro, if you would. And so, anyhow, here we are, and we're wearing cornrows as a fashion statement. And natural curly hair is a movement. And I've even seen various other cultures wearing big curly wigs. And you know what, I know that there has been some criticism with respect to our white counterparts, even our Asian counterparts, wearing curly afro wigs. But why not? We wear straight wigs. We want to wear, we have accessories, and I don't think at all that it's robbing us of our cultural identity. I think it's actually a bit of a compliment in terms of their appreciation for our natural beauty. I think it's awesome. And on that note, I remember watching a YouTube video not too long ago, and it was beautiful women sharing their natural hair journey, and how they grew up, what their influences were, their first perming experiences, and how they, came from having their hair permed to developing a self-awareness where they really desired to return to their natural hair. And one of the young ladies was Brazilian, and she said something that was so interesting to me. She said that she had been criticized for calling herself, for saying that she was on a natural hair, that she had natural hair, because she was told that she wasn't black. And I just kind of chuckled to myself, because anyone who knows um, history understands that, Brazilians didn't just pop out of pods. There's definitely African descent there, and there's African descent, throughout those regions of the world, in terms of the Caribbean, West Caribbean, Brazil, South America, all, there's African descent. And so, therefore, she's no more or less natural than anyone else with tight curly hair, whether they're white, black, green, yellow, or orange. It's natural. It means that it is, let's go back to the definition of undisputed origin, genuine, made or done in the traditional or original way. So if that is how she was born and that's her original curl, then that's her natural hair. She is natural. And her hair is just as big and beautiful and curly as mine. I mean, it's gorgeous. So, anyhow, on that note, I just invite you all to open your minds and really think about what it means when we say that we're on a natural, it's a natural hair movement. And if you're on your own natural hair journey, and also just acknowledging that this movement is not necessarily a trend. It's more of an awareness, an awakening, a reawakening, just connecting with your authentic self, and just really being comfortable with who you are. I'm so excited to see what this will do for women, moving forward. What will we be in 10 years, just because we're embracing who we are. With that, I really am excited that you were able to tune in today. Please rate and subscribe. I really look forward to your feedback. Please subscribe on iTunes. You may also subscribe on SoundCloud, and you may also follow me on my website at www.pwwr365.com, and also on Instagram at PWWR365. Take care and have a phenomenal Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in to Power 365 Phenomenal Woman Wednesdays. I believe that every woman gifts the universe with her own strengths and unique characteristics. Simply because she is born, the universe benefits. Every woman is growing, learning, and evolving. On this channel, only positive seeds are sown, no matter how flawed the soil. Take care and have a phenomenal Wednesday.